And off we go, folks. Big hit of the llama. Woo! Welcome to the after party. This is a heck of a day today for golf.
There's one.
No. Aren't we talking about the Mandalorian tonight?
We are talking about Mandalorian's past. We're not talking. We're changing the Star Wars dads.
Ted Lasso. We're gonna talk Ted Lasso tonight.
Oh, I'll talk Ted Lasso. That's.
No, never watched it. I've never seen Ted Lasso.
You both need to start watching that because you're missing out, and just have a box of tissues when you get to some episodes because it's awesome. But today, I will say, Steve, I know you had the same thing. I was at work, and I had a busy day at work today, and I was like in the weeds at work. And everyone, I think I know, was texting me this.
I was
like,
literally.
Did you see this? Did you see this? Did you see this? I literally have like the box of the story from different news outlets sent to me like 7 times today.
It's literally, yesterday was the longest day in golf, right? That's
Yep.
what it's known as, longest day in golf. 36 holes.
That's why we did our longest show ever yesterday.
That is true.
Honor.
And today may have been the craziest day in golf.
Yeah.
And when you look at
in the history of golf,
like, I mean, I've got 4 pages of notes here, literally, of just like, what do we need to talk about today? And I don't know where this is even going to go. Like, I think that's our biggest conversation is where does this go?
I don't think anybody knows where it's going to go right now outside of some of the broader parameters.
Yo,
Desert Fox, how we doing?
What's up? What's up, Desert Fox? What's up, Scotty? How are you?
Well, and that's the thing that I think most people are jumping to is people are jumping to conclusions already when nothing, not even this contract, is set in stone yet.
Yeah.
This was just an announcement of what is coming. But I think
the reason they're jumping to conclusions is that the PGA Tour and the commissioner of the PGA Tour has gone 180 degrees opposite of what he had been saying all along. And all of a sudden, you're now, for lack of a better term, jumping in bed with the Saudis.
Yeah.
To the tune of about $1 billion.
I think it's more than $1 billion.
Yeah.
And
let's get one thing here. This is a 1,000% a business deal.
Yep.
Is what
Correct.
This is.
Correct. And at the end of the day, anybody that owns a business who is going to be offered this type of money is going to say, let's have a conversation. Now, I think
Stephen A. Smith put this perfectly, is the U.S. government does deals with the Saudis as well. So, like, I do think there are a lot of questions, and this is going to upset a lot of people, and I think they're rightfully to be upset. But
at the end of the day, I think golf just wins. You're going to be upset, whatever. Something good is going to come out of this, and the game of golf wins.
I feel that's what they're trying to feed us right now. But until I see what happens, I hope golf wins.
Yeah.
And I think they have that potential. But
I think there's
a lot
so
of
much. Like there's a lot that's going to happen between now and then. That is literally, we're all going to be sitting here going, what are they doing? What's going on? Like,
because they do it inside the ropes.
Bradley. Wasn't Steve that said it, though.
You can start with this morning and the announcement that comes out and the fact that tour players weren't even in the loop that this was going to be announced.
Once again, business deal.
Can we figure out why it was on CNBC?
Yeah, no, 100%. Business deal. And Greg and I had this conversation. You don't have this conversation on the Golf Channel, partly because the Golf Channel has done everything they could possibly do to make Live look bad.
And also, Chambly's head would have exploded.
And, like, could you imagine if Chambly was the one doing the interview? Like, I mean, he already had the crying Jordan face today when they interviewed him on the Golf Channel at the beginning.
Hold on. That would have been but here's what they needed to do. That would have been an episode of RIP Jerry Springer. Like that would have been an episode of Jerry Springer. Like you have
right. Like, but my problem is that when you look at this, the first question we all have to ask is why? Why did they do this? And do I think that this was going to happen at some point? I honestly saw this happening a year from now when the live contracts were coming up for the players that were on these 3-year contracts. And I saw this coming up, like it's going to come to fruition. They're going to have to pay these guys again. They're not going to want to do that because Liv doesn't have a TV deal. They haven't sold any of the franchise. So I do think that both sides, whether it was the PIF or the PGA Tour, had a reason to do this. And I know the live players, the live proponents are going to say, well, the PIF has this unlimited source of funds and they could just throw more money at it. You can, but at some point, if you're dealing with
you want an ROI.
There needs to be an ROI. And so at some point you don't have a lucrative TV deal. You're on the CW who's running away from your playoffs when you're in a playoff. You're not making money from that deal either. It's basically a free deal. And Scott, we're gonna get to this because I think I know the reason why. But let me get through this, Scott, and we'll get to that. So you have Liv who is sitting there saying you have the PIF that's saying we're pouring all this money into this. The big thing that was the selling point was that they were going to sell these franchises, and that hasn't happened. And they were going to sell them for billions of dollars because they were trying to equate them to what are professional sports franchises. Yeah, I don't see that's not going to happen. There's been a rumor that Koepka's team was going to get bought. Smash was going to get bought after the PGA for $2 billion from Nike. I have a hard time thinking that Nike as a company is going to spend $2 billion on 4 players.
And none of them are named Jordan.
Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. Koepka's a big name. He's not Michael Jordan. But, you're going to spend $2 billion on this franchise for what? That's not in the limelight on a major golf. You're on the CW, and you're going up against how many reruns of old shows?
Well, and I think that
I think the PGA Tour had another problem where and Dave, we talked about this with you. You heard this today. Who is next to go?
Yeah.
So you're fighting off who's next to go, and then the other problem that you're fighting off is that Liv and the PIF had put this whole thing having to do with the PGA Tour having a monopoly, and the Department of Justice looking into the PGA Tour. So now you have this. Hey, are we going to lose this case? And how much money is the PGA Tour going to be out fighting all of this?
But Steve, let me add something in here.
And then who leaves? And let's be honest, there have been names that have been linked to this in Xander Schauffele and Patrick Cantlay, who are big names in the PGA Tour, talking about leaving. And I'll be honest, with the things you've heard from Jon Rahm, would any of us be surprised if he left?
But here's the thing we also have to get, and a lot of people need to understand, is that Live Golf is an entity, the PGA Tour is an entity, and the PIF is its own entity. They are just the backers behind Live. And that's what I think people are misunderstanding. Hold on.
And they just broke up with Liv.
Exactly. That's what I think a lot of people are misunderstanding in this, is that Live Golf got backed by them, but I think that the PIF was like, to what Dave's point, was not seeing the return on the investment, the giant investment that they put in to kind of make this work.
Correct.
And we're not seeing that leadership. That's why, honestly, Greg Norman didn't know that this was going on, and I think he's out.
And his name was clearly absent in every post, every article that came out today.
This is your biggest investor. Your biggest investor said, "You know what? You have my money there. I'm going over here, and either you're coming with me."
Thanks, Daniel.
That is true. That is a big win on that. But that's what a lot of people I think are forgetting. And even on CNBC this morning, it wasn't Live, it was the PIF and the PGA Tour.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah, that's who was being interviewed, not Live. That's why I thought like Mickelson and all those reactions about like Liv is one thing, which is what they were promoting. I get Mickelson's.
And there was an interesting conversation because Monahan, after he had the players meeting today, which I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that players meeting.
Yeah.
I like that thing probably was real ugly. He met with the media right after that and was asked about what's going to happen going forward if there's a live event up against the PGA Tour event, and his comment was, "That's not going to happen."
Yeah.
So if I honestly think that if the PIF is involved, and I still think, and we can go down this road, and there's some other things I think we need to have this conversation about before we get to this point today, is I do think that there was talk earlier in the day that it was more of a combination, and then there was talk later in the day that Liv is going to cease to exist going forward. And I really seem to think that may be the case here.
So I honestly think that, and we talked about TV shows earlier, the TV show The Office predicted this whole thing out. And just hear me out if you've watched The Office. When Michael Scott
haven't, so I've never been an Office fan.
But
so.
For anyone that's watched The Office, Michael Scott Paper Company, when Michael Scott left, he created this paper company on his own that wasn't sustainable, was bleeding money, but was stealing clients from Dunder Mifflin, and Dunder Mifflin bought them out and brought them back in. And it was if you watch the episodes about this is what it's going to be like. They left because they felt they were treated unfairly, just like the Live players left because they thought they were being treated unfairly. They put together this tour, made it seem like it's going to be the greatest thing, and didn't quite get it off the ground, but they stole people from the PGA Tour and stole some revenue. And that was not sustainable, but the PGA Tour realized that, hey, it's a time we need to bring you back in for that.
So
and
it's like
the same synopsis.
It's like a certain company. It's like a certain company that the three of us have worked for that has acquired multiple other brands that were independent and brought
it's not
them
like that.
The
it's not like that though. That's buying someone. That wasn't. No one left that company, and then you were like, "Oh, you did good, so we're going to bring you back in."
Right?
It's not. I don't see it like that. This is you were part of the PGA Tour, left to do something else because you didn't think we were doing it right, and now you made it look like it's viable, and it's. I mean, come on, the CW, and you're not doing all this, and I don't know if it's a playoff. Everyone left for the money, so it's like now we're just going to bring them back in, and even the investor now says, I don't see this as a viable plan, so I'm going to go with the already established one.
Right. And I want to address this point that Scott from Desert Fox put up there. And Scott, thank you for making this point. I honestly believe today that after listening to the interview with Yasser Al-Rahman and Jay Monahan, the reason the announcement was made today, they said they've been talking about this for 7 weeks and that they met in London and played golf. Well, if they all stayed at a hotel together in London and anybody knows anything that's what's going on with all of this and that they were playing golf together, somebody's going to leak this info. And I honestly believe they were about to get outed by somebody in the media. And so that's why they came out today and had this and have no details, that they've agreed to this in principle and they're going to move forward. But there's no... The problem is you have to move forward. You had to say this. Otherwise, all of a sudden, somebody from the media leaks this, and all of us are sitting here scrambling going, what in the hell's going on? And literally, that's my reason as to why it was so vague, that Jay hasn't really answered any questions. And you're looking at this and you're saying to yourself, why do it now? They had to do it now because other than that, somebody who was big enough in the media was going to say, hey, the PGA Tour and the PIF are having conversations.
Yeah.
And this was, I think the bad part about that is now you have all these players that were loyal to the PGA that were against what Liv was trying to do and trying to keep the pureness of what the PGA was. They did want to get paid. They do want to and help evolve the sport, but they stayed loyal, and you just kind of screwed them out of this deal. Like, and I don't mean like they got screwed in the deal.
I
mean,
don't
you just
know
you left them out of the deal, and it's not their
Well,
place to be in the deal. But you were
but we
keeping
don't
them in the
know,
loop
like-
the whole time.
But here's the other deal on that, Greg. And as the PGA Tour as an entity, as a nonprofit, they can't pay the players the money that Liv was paying them.
Oh, 100%.
Now
That's
that
not what
they're
I'm
a-
saying.
Yeah.
Now that they are a for-profit organization, are these players
Well,
who didn't
they're
leave going
both.
to reap rewards?
They're
They're
going
both
to
a
be both.
for-profit. The tour itself, the tour events are as a non-profit entity,
Right.
but the commercial side is
For-profit.
like for-profit. So now
Right.
that would make like the next season a full swing. Like they can make money off of that now
Right.
because it's
So,
their.
you know,
I
like,
just
You know, it's like they always said, where did Shaq make all of his money? In college. You know,
But
it's one of those.
The
The
question-
person that I feel so bad for in all this is Rory. You know,
well, not just Rory,
they put-
all the
but
Rory,
but
JT,
Rory,
Speed,
but
Tiger, yes.
Rory was the face because Tiger was hurt. And Rory became the face, and 2 weeks ago he stood up there and said, "You know, we don't want the live players on our Ryder Cup team." So he knew nothing about this.
yeah,
and
that's what
now-
I'm saying.
You know, now does John Rahm wants Sergio to play. There's probably a big bet that Sergio is going to play on the Ryder Cup this year because John Rahm says so.
I don't know that if I'm trying to win the Ryder Cup, I'm not taking Sergio.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
Like are you trying to play or are you trying to win?
that's a giant comment.
It is, and I'm trying to read through it. I just think that the players, I think the tour has handled this from a PR perspective
Poorly.
I'm trying to think of a word that is way worse than poorly. Like,
But I think to this comment that like you said they should say no comment. I think that if they kept saying no comment, and delayed this, it would have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
right.
Because at that point the speculation is getting there, and this would have been like,
And then what do you still have to answer to your players? And let's be
exactly.
real, the players aren't the best. Johnson Wagner said on the Golf Channel today, you tell the players something and tell them they can't say anything, they're the first ones to
They're
say
going
it.
to say something.
Yeah. This is a
So-
PR nightmare from the beginning.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I wanted to point out is that the problem with this is they set the narrative from the beginning, which I wish never was the narrative. And I blame Greg Norman for this. Is us versus them, the PGA versus Live. You pick a side. This is the Hatfields versus McCoys. You have to hate the other side, or you have to love our side. Like that's what this became.
But here's the other thing though, going forward. Is this the PGA Tour versus Live, or is this just the PGA Tour and the PIF? Because I don't feel like yes, the PIF is funding Live, and we can't question that. But at the end of the day, are we looking at a case where the PIF has just decided we don't want nothing to do with you anymore because we see where the money is? Because there's a TV deal in place, there's a streaming deal in place that are making boatloads of money from ESPN Plus, from their TV deals with the Golf Channel, CBS, NBC. And they're saying, hey, we're going to see a quicker return on our investment than what we've given to you. You just made the handshake deal to get us in the door with these guys, and let's go forward, and we're going to move forward with these new guys.
Well,
Was this not you? Did they say it's not you, it's me? Like, is that what they've said? It's
No,
not you, it's me.
this is you gave someone the opportunity, and I think Norman was pumping everyone up, saying that this is going to be change the game of golf. We're going to change the game. This is all going to be amazing. We're going to do things differently. We're going to only play 54 holes. We're going to have no cuts. Like we're going to do stuff because we're going to get paid because we're playing, not based on our performance. And
well, they were paid both. They were paid.
Well, I
both.
get that. No, I get that. But the investor was like, okay, if you can go do this and make it successful, this will have a good return on investment. And it's just stayed stagnant. And you've made everyone on that tour. Like, I think the guys on the Live Tour are truly having fun and enjoying that structure.
Mm-hmm.
But because of this us versus them mentality, which they never should have started.
No.
Most people
Yeah.
stayed with the PGA because that's the history. That's what this tour has its roots in the ground in this golf community. And you see, that's why people are pissed off today that they feel you're letting these people back in that left and kind of crapped on the tour.
Though.
Mhm.
Here's my question, and it came out as one of the comments after Jeff Ogilvy said it, and then Rex Hoggard also said it after the player meeting today. The question that was asked was, how easy is the path going to be to get back from LIV to the PGA Tour? And the answer was, basically, they're going to have to jump through hoops to get back.
Well, and the other thing that was in the statement today,
we don't know what that's going to look like. Is January 1st of 2024, are we going to see the players that won on the LIV Tour in Hawaii at the Tournament of Champions?
So no, you're not, because
you're not. I don't think you are either.
Those suspensions are gonna continue out. And they said they have to come back in based on the rules of the PGA. So they have a suspension. They have this stuff. They're going to have to jump through that. And here's the thing. If you want to appease people like Rory and people who were loyal to you and people that I think you need to appease in this situation, because a lot's going to come out of this, and I'm hoping it goes, and I hope it's fair, and I hope it says that, hey, if you were loyal to us and you weren't loyal, you do need to jump through those hoops. You do need to, go through Q school. You do need to wait till your suspension's over.
And here's the other thing. You make this announcement this week, and you're in Canada, where you have it's not an elevated event. It's a week before a major, so you have a lot of the 125 to 150 guys that are playing this week that don't have full status on the PGA Tour. So now let's go forward to next year. If you let these guys back in, what happens to those 125 to 150 guys? What's the pecking order look like before the reshuffle and everything else that happens in the PGA Tour when it comes to status? You have
now
to
it goes.
look
Hold
and
on,
say,
it goes Corn Ferry, LIV, then PGA. That's going to be your.
Well, I mean,
they're going to have relegation, and it's going to be
like I just don't see where. I don't see the idea that, like, if I'm in that 125 to 150 and I have questionable status, even if you're even the top or you've come off the Corn Ferry and you've got status because you've come off the Corn Ferry, you're still eligible. You're still relegated to the reshuffle once the reshuffle happens, depending on where you sit. So how do you now go and say, how can you justify bringing these guys and letting a Brooks or a Bryson or somebody like that left and took all this money back into an event that's going to bounce me out of the event? Like, that's the bigger question that you have to ask these guys that stayed loyal. Like, these guys stayed loyal and didn't go. You got college kids that have gone and left and went to LIV that didn't ever have tour status. Now you're going to give them tour status. Like, there's a lot of questions if I'm a PGA Tour player of saying, what are you doing with these guys? Like, how is and let's look, David Puig, who left, came out of Michigan State and went right to LIV.
Yep.
There's the kid from Arizona State that's won on the LIV Tour. Like, how do you go and where do you put these guys in and say, hey, we're giving this guy status. We're giving him a spot over somebody that's busted their butt on the Corn Ferry Tour or was in that 125 to 150 category that's kind of in no man's land. Like, there's a lot of questions that need to be answered for guys that stayed loyal.
But at the end of the day, it's a business. Brooks Koepka draws money. The guy that's 126 doesn't.
But that's going to be the big thing is that,
so
are you now just making this a power tour, and are you going to have it that your top 50 now are going to be your money makers on this tour, and then the rest? Like, what's that going to look like? Because it's a good point. Because Dave, I think it is a business decision. So you want those big names back. And yes, I did hit it on the head. Thank you.
Because if I'm like, say, like I heard this today, like if I'm the Genesis Open and I say, look, I want Bubba there, I want Brooks there, I want DJ, these are the guys that I want there to play. That's a business decision right now. And right now, money talks in a business decision. If you say, these are the guys that I want there to play because it is going to be better for my tournament and my investors in this tournament, that's what it comes down to.
But I do think
and I want to address this. And Eric, thank you again for joining us tonight. You were here last night for the Dormy Workshop Marathon that we had last night.
Awesome show last night.
Awesome show last night. But no, here's my take on the world rankings. I also think that it was about to be announced that Liv is going to get world rankings because, again, you knew going in that you had to wait a year before you could get them. And I do think that Liv at this point was going to get world rankings at some point. I think that the tour was going to have to suffice to that decision. Mm-hmm. And if they were going to and go down that road, I don't mind Liv getting world rankings. I do think it needed to be adjusted based on the fact that you have a very limited field.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. But yeah.
But I also think, like, I love how all these Liv players jumped ship, said it's because we're growing the game, we're doing all of this stuff and cheers to Harold Varner, who's the only one that officially said we're leaving for the money. Like, and now they're the ones, like, if you look at all these tweets today from players, the PGA players are upset because they feel like they were loyal and all these Liv players are like, yeah, we're allowed back in. Well, you wanted to leave in the first place. And now you're so happy that this is happening and you're back. Like, what's that going to happen? What's that going to look like?
$25,000 question, Kaz. I don't know.
Yeah.
Chris and I went to college together. So Kaz, $25,000 question, and I don't know the answer to that, and I don't think anybody does right now. And I just well, that's true. Scott, yes.
He was, but he still said he was one. Pat Perez was still one that was saying that he was going for the growth. And also Pat Perez was, I think that was a smart move for Pat Perez. I'm going to be honest with you.
Well, I mean, Pat Perez, Harold Varner, like these guys that were kind of journeymen on the PGA Tour.
They were good. They were solid names.
Good players.
PGA Tour,
they were good players.
And
they were good players.
They were good players. Even Phil Mickelson at that point, like, besides winning the PGA out of nowhere, he wasn't doing much on the tour.
His best finish that year outside of the PGA was on the regular tour. He won 3 events on the Champions Tour, but his best finish on the PGA Tour was T17 in a limited field event that week. That year.
Exactly. So, like, I get why they were kind of doing that, because it was, and we said this from the beginning, Steve, we kind of felt like the Liv was the predecessor to going to the Champions Tour. Like, you weren't old enough for the Champions Tour yet.
It was the 40 and up tour in the beginning.
Exactly.
Like,
that's what it looked like.
I'm going to be honest with you. You know who I think is the biggest loser out of this whole deal today? Henrik Stenson, because he lost his chance to be a Ryder Cup captain. Luke Donald's now going to captain the Ryder Cup team. Yep. And now you have Henrik that's allowed back in and can do whatever he wants to do. So Henrik Stenson missed out on being a Ryder Cup captain this year.
I think he gets it. He gets it next time they come to Europe.
No, I think they give it to him next time. So 2025 is Bethpage. Ugh. I don't know that you put Henrik Stenson at Bethpage because I feel like you need somebody.
No, you wait till 27 and it comes back.
You need a bigger voice at Bethpage. You need somebody that can handle the New York crowd at Bethpage, not Henrik Stenson.
Yeah.
And I like Henrik, don't get me wrong, but I feel like you need somebody who is, I don't want to use the word obnoxious, but can deal with the New York crowd. What?
You know who you just described, right?
You need Ian Poulter.
No, I'm talking for the U.S. team. You know who you just described.
It's Phil
Captain
Mickelson.
America.
No,
Dave got it
Phil
right.
Mickelson. No. I think that Mickelson was lined up to do 2025 anyway in New York. I do think they were probably going to give it to Tiger at this point because Tiger can deal with the New York crowd too. But I think
you give it to Tiger still.
Yeah.
You know what? Scott makes a good point. This actually isn't a bad choice. The problem is he had a point where he could still play in the Ryder Cup team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For New York, that's not a bad pick either. Because he's, again, somebody who's can have those conversations. Henrik, I like Henrik, don't get me wrong, but it would be like Martin Keimer. You're just putting a machine in there that literally is just going to feed answers.
Do you bring back Darren Clark at that point in time?
You know what? That's not a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Or you know who the other guy that I would think about bringing back is Paul McGinley if you're going to bring somebody back.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because Lee Westwood could still potentially play on that.
Lee Westwood, Ian Poulter. I'm going to be honest. Let's be real. Like you're talking 2 years from now. Lee Westwood, Ian Poulter, Sergio Garcia. Those guys do. You know what? Sergio might be the guy you make captain of that team.
Yeah.
Because again, he doesn't need to be liked. He needs to be able to deal with the crowd.
But that's the other thing. Like going back to this whole thing about this, I'm not calling it a merger. It's a hostile takeover at this point. They're just shoving Liv out. They're shoving Greg Norman out. Like that's what this is becoming. And those fences are going to be the biggest part of this. Like, how do you mend those fences?
Oh, please, Kaz, no. Please.
I was hoping someone was going to say Colin Montgomery, so thank you. Just to say it. But maybe but that's going to be the toughest part about this whole thing is you're going to have to, like, I don't want these live players coming back and being like all cocky about, oh, we did this, we changed all this, and having this big head when it's like, no, you went and tried something. It got you a lot of money, but it wasn't successful. It wasn't going to be successful.
And you were losing money and bleeding money out. So, like, if you're going to do that, like,
that's why your investor jumped ship.
Again, and I'm going to say this. You paid Phil Mickelson $200 million to go.
Yeah.
At this point in his career. At this point in his career. How many top 10s does he have in Liv? Like, with 48 players in the field? 1 or 2? Like, I think my problem is that you're talking about a guy who, and much like the Lee Westwoods, Ian Poulters of the world, kind of past their prime. Like, that ship sailed. And they were just trying to hold on and save their name and reputation at this point, and that's all they were doing. And I felt like I had already felt like before Mickelson left, he was going VJ Singh and trying to say I can still win on the PGA Tour when VJ had no business being there after he turned 50 and should have just gone and been an ATM machine on the Champions Tour. Is what he should have. And
I think Phil had a better chance, though.
I would agree with that, but I really feel like Phil should have gone to the Champions Tour pre-Tiger and tried to do more things to get more money on the Champions Tour, get more sponsors on the Champions Tour, and get more money thrown into the Champions Tour from an advertising standpoint so they could generate more money and pay more money out.
So I was excited, and this is just us getting older too. I was excited to see those players like Phil, John Daly, all of them on the Champions Tour just murdering the ball. And when Phil was winning on the Champions Tour, I was like, but I just feel he could not, like, he still wanted to be the face of the PGA Tour and something, and he wasn't getting that from the PGA Tour because
Phil was never the face of the PGA Tour because of one guy and one guy only, and his name was Tiger.
But it was that, I think it was Jack and Arnie, like that was Tiger and Phil. And Phil couldn't handle that Tiger was Tiger.
Yeah. Let's go to a different idea right now. And let's throw this around. Let's say the tour decides to keep some of the components of Live in the team event. Could you picture these these team events right now where you could put
make this fun.
like and I don't mean to say this the wrong way, but it's going to come out that way. Chase Koepka isn't the same as putting Justin Thomas on a team.
That's true.
Like, if you put Justin, Jordan, and Rory on a team together, like, picture that team and going out and, you know, like, I feel like if we look at this and say, okay, Tour, if you take some of the components that Liv has brought to the table with the team event, and how
Joel Damon can get his wish of being on the Four Aces.
He can get his wish of being on the Four Aces.
Yeah. Best tweet of the day, by the way.
Right.
Oh, no, second best tweet of the day. The first best tweet of the day was Full Swing going, you better believe we're filming this shit.
Right. Like, but like, I feel like when you look at what Liv brings to the table from the team event, is there something that the tour can incorporate from a team perspective? Because again, we have talked about this, Greg, and you and we've talked about this on this show. Decide what you are.
Yeah. What have I said?
You
from the
put all
beginning?
this.
I said you're either a team event or you're
Funny. Oh, there we go.
But
yeah,
It is.
like,
It is
like,
now.
you didn't
but
do the
decide,
team events
decide
right
what you
on
are.
Live.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you focused on the winner every week, but you wanted this team aspect of it.
Just clarify
you know,
that.
Thanks, Scott. But no, like I feel like if you're going to go down this team road, and I don't think Liv ever did it right. I think they focused on way too many things of, hey, we have the winner that's getting this much money. Oh, wait, we have the team. But yet every time they put something on social media, it was the weekly winner. It wasn't the team on the podium getting like.
No, it was the team doing a champagne thing every week, like they won the Super Bowl every week.
Right. And it wasn't a, you know what, and I'm going to say this. Do I think there were components of Liv that were really good? And I've said this all along. If I was a caddy on the PGA Tour and I had a chance to go to Liv, oh, sign me up. My airfare's covered. My hotel's covered. I don't have to pay for any of that. I can stay at the same hotel that my player's staying in. I'm not staying at the Roach Motel down the street because, I mean,
you're not taking Spirit Airlines.
Hey, listen, there's a video of Hideki taking Spirit. So
that's where that comment came from, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah. He could have bought Spirit.
That someone made that comment too. They said if he would have went to Live, he would have bought
Spirit. Yeah.
But that's world's biggest Calcutta. No,
but that's a good point, Steve, is that we've talked about that of Liv just did, we have a million ideas, and instead of being like, let's do one at a time, they did all million. Yeah. And didn't organize anything in that sense. Like,
how many meetings? I mean, we all worked for, and we can say it on here, we all worked for Disney. How many meetings have we all sat in where you've whiteboarded in blue sky a bunch of ideas, and you're like, let's do this, 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 and this, and it turns into, let's roll out one of these at a time every time we sit in those meetings,
and let's roll that out and say, we'll do this, then we'll go to this,
those meetings,
and we'll do that. And that's been the biggest thing, is that they've done too much. And Steve, you made a good point earlier when we were talking about how the PGA could probably do a team event at the end of the season going into the next season and give us more golf. Does it turn into the fall series? But here's the other problem. Exactly.
Like, all these guys, when you talk about how many weeks they already have to play on the PGA Tour, and now you're going to ask them to do this team event in the fall where we're going to play team golf and this, that, and the other, and you got to get out there with your team. And you already have New Orleans as a team event, and I do like New Orleans, and I wish there were more events like New Orleans because I think it's a fun event to watch. And I feel like New Orleans itself as an event, you couldn't do that at Memorial, but you can do it in New Orleans. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But I think here's where I think we're talking about those under the 125. And that's almost where I think your team event could go into this, like where the players that are playing in the Tour Championship at the end of the season to win the FedEx Cup and everything like that, like that's when that's over, the players that might not have gotten their card or might be just on that cusp, you put into this team event and give them a chance to play a little bit more and maybe earn something that way. Your team wins, you get some exemptions next year. Like,
does the team event become the new match?
Almost. Like that's kind of a way, but it's, you have it as a season. So it's like you pick 10 events, I don't know, or 5 events or something.
Yeah.
Where if you win, like you get first, and like it's a point system or something. You can make
like
it.
I'd love to see a team event. You take Jordan and JT and 2 other guys, and you put Rahm and Rory and in a Ryder Cup style format, but laid back team event. A little bit of music, a little bit of this going on, and it almost becomes a new version of the match.
Here's another question that you have to ask, and I'm going to ask this question having been to a live event and seen what's gone on at them. Live signed contracts with golf courses for multiple years. Like Orange County National, they signed a 2-year deal to go to Orange County National. So what happens next year with that agreement of going to Orange County National?
Yeah, they get paid.
So, but that's the thing. That's where I feel like
the PIF pays them out.
Well, that might be the case, but that's where you got bought out and that contract becomes null and void because you have to. That's where Live is going to be dissolved.
Yeah,
Right.
and that
Unless
might be a line item in the contract. Like this becomes null and void if this and this happens.
Not
Scott
even,
makes
but
Scott from Desert Fox makes a good point here. Correct. Like that goes away, right?
but I think the only way Live would be able to stay is if the people that are running Live say we're going to try to do this on our own. And we don't have the backing of all this money now, but all those players are going to be like, well, this is why I left the other one. And I said I was growing the game, but no, I'm going to go back over to the PGA because that's where the money
right.
is.
Well, and there's a lot of questions around the PIF and what they are too. Like when you look at the 9/11 families who were very vocal of the players that went to Live because the PIF was funding them.
The term sports washing is the big thing with this.
Yeah, right. But at the end of the day, like the PGA Tour, who tried to defend the 9/11 families and tried to take that on their side, all of a sudden Jay Monahan, who, again, his comment was, "You've never had to apologize for being on the PGA Tour. You now need to apologize for being on the PGA Tour because you're taking Saudi money."
And his quote was, "Circumstances change." So, like, you're taking Saudi money, but I mean, like Stephen A. Smith said today, America does business with Saudi Arabia, and we've done business with enemies before, and things do change. That's not making it right. I'm not trying to defend anybody here,
right?
But there's a lot of stuff that we don't know, and that's the big thing about this whole thing is everything is a knee-jerk reaction to this huge story that was dropped on us today.
Yeah. And we'll be sitting here Monday night next week, talking about this as we find out more that's come on.
I think this is going to be a. This is going to be a.
Yeah.
After this is going
Rory,
to be
after Rory gets me another win at the RBC Canada and I get first pick at the US Open.
Dude, that's not happening. After this bomb, he had just gotten over the Masters and them playing together for the first time. Rory's odds should go down now at this point.
That's all right. I asked Steve if I could switch my pick.
Eric makes a good point. Only star power and sponsors make that team event successful. Wouldn't work at the end of the season.
True.
That is
true.
But I think the idea of the team event, like, I don't know how the tour comes into doing it. Again, we all sit and watch golf, and what are our favorite events to watch? You have the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup. And with the Ryder Cup and the President's Cup,
your wife just bring you a drink?
Maybe she did.
So you missed this all last night, Dave.
Yeah. So okay,
but
speaking of the odds,
when you have these
speaking of the odds, there are no changes right now.
No, I don't think there will be.
You cut in to say there's nothing that changed.
Yeah, well, yeah,
because we're not letting you change your pick, Dave. That's not happening.
Yeah. Hey, I could try.
That's true.
But I think that there's when you look at the big picture of what's about to happen and where this is going to unfold, there are so many questions that we all have that we don't have answers to right now.
No, and we can come up with ideas and 100 stuff. That's all it is.
I find it funny that the one player that talked today was Jeff Ogilvy.
His name got drawn out of a hat. That's why.
No, nobody wanted to talk after.
Yeah.
And I think that Jeff Ogilvy is probably the one guy who is going to stay very neutral in his comments. And that's why he was like, I'll talk because, Jeff Ogilvy. A former U.S. Open winner, actually, Eric.
Defeated Phil Mickelson for one of Phil's many runners-up.
Because Phil hit one off the roof of the.
That was the tent. That was the tent.
That was the hospitality tent.
Wingfoot.
So I will say with these changes, like you can do a whole bunch with this. And another speculation is, what if you did a team event where like every fifth event on the season is a team event that goes towards an end of year team win that isn't part of the FedEx Cup or anything else like that. Like, you just mix it into it.
I just want to say this. Hey, Eric, just kind of like Yankee fans talk about their 27 world titles, we can talk about Jeff Ogilvy's win.
Hey, the 1972
I don't care how long ago it
Miami
was.
The 1972
Still got
Miami
27.
Dolphins were
Just
undefeated.
deal with it. Yeah, have the Patriots ever gone undefeated? What happened? What happened at that Super Bowl?
Golly, now you're a Giants fan. I forgot about that.
Did another team from New York embarrass Boston? Thank you.
Yeah. Who's the only team in baseball that was up 3-0 and lost?
Oh, I was going to be – I wanted the Celtics to do it, but I was going to be pissed to have to hear all these Boston fans be like, we're the only state that comes back from a 3-0. You shouldn't have gone down 3-0 to begin with. Let's just be honest.
Right. Let's be honest. Yeah, you're right about that. I do think the idea of that
a lot of people have talked about this, Mike. This has been a big topic today.
Yes. And again, back to your point, Greg, and it's been talked about. The government does business with them. Why, that's not a terrible idea.
I think there are some great things that can come out of this. Like, I'm going to use this example perfectly. When the XFL first came out, the XFL brought us that camera that hangs over the field and gives us amazing shots. The XFL changed stuff in the NFL today. That's going to be the same thing with this.
So here's my question, and it was talked about today. What does this mean with the money that they've got from the PIF? No. Tennis doesn't have it. Realistically, golf and tennis are the two individual sports, right? So no. But what does this mean?
It's becoming a thing. I'm just saying.
I would agree with you. What does this do for the Champions Tour and for
great minds think alike?
Yeah.
And when you look at the LPGA Tour too,
I would honestly like to see this help grow both of those in kind of bringing them into the fold in this and make it one big entity that they can all kind of succeed from this. Like, get more money on, because let's just talk about the Rose on the LPGA last week. First start, first win. Like,
right.
You're getting a lot of publicity now.
Well, and here's another thought. Let's talk about Tiger. We know Tiger can't walk 18 holes. Tiger and I are the same age, so we're 47. If Tiger goes to the Champions Tour where he can ride in a cart and play some golf and just go out and peg it up and have some fun, and do purses on the Champions Tour grow? This one's even better. Oh, dear Lord. No, hey, Vince McMahon doesn't run the XFL anymore. It's The Rock. It's Dwayne that owns the XFL.
Vince McMahon doesn't run the WWE, WWF anymore. Right. UCF or UFC bought them out.
Yeah. And where does the UFC get their money from? The PIF.
Do they really?
Yes.
Yeah.
That one is true, not the
that one is true. So no, that one is true. So
yeah.
Again, imagine The Rock involved in, finally. We could go down the road with The Rock and all his one-liners. But no, I feel like could we infuse some more money? And there's been a great conversation about the money and there's the whole equal money for women and men in sports and that idea. And they go back to the World Cup argument where the players for the men's team in the World Cup get a less share than what the women's team gets for the World Cup, although it's not equal money. They get a bigger percentage of it. But is there a way that we can increase purses on the LPGA Tour, increase purses on the Champions Tour, and how do we go down that road? Like,
well, here's where I think you need to think about this as the one thing that has always been the constant in all of these conversations is growing the game.
It's baseball. Baseball, Ray. Baseball. The one thing that has been constant is
baseball. Yeah. That was good. Good catch on that one. But the one constant in it all is baseball. But the one thing they've always talked about is we're trying to grow the game. And how do you do that is, I think, honestly, if they're looking at this, they need to look at the PGA Junior League. They need to look at the college game. They need to look at putting money into first swing. They need to put money into first tee. They need to put all the money into like these events that help grow the game, that make these players better growing up in the game. This is what, to be honest, why soccer is the world's biggest sport, is because these players over in Europe and other countries, that's what they play from day one, and they grow up into these clubs. Like, they have feeder clubs that go into this. So if you want to make golf the global thing that this is trying to do with all of the DP World Tour, with all of this, that's how you do it. You start building it up from there.
Do you know where the
LPGA better and everything?
Do you know where the PGA Junior League came from, by the way? And why it was founded?
I'm going to say Arnie.
No. It was founded because we were sick of getting beat in the Ryder Cup, and that Europe has a bunch of they play teams for their countries, and they play a bunch of team events, and we don't do that here. And that was their one take, was that we needed to start growing the game younger in team events and playing team golf. And that's why they did that. So
100%.
I like the idea of PGA Junior League, and I like the idea of what they're doing. I just think that I'm with you, Greg. Like, how do we even expand upon that and grow the game? Not just here in America.
Yeah, everywhere.
We have to not everywhere. And so, there's been this talk this week about, well, somebody commented online, why would Hideki have gotten more money than Jon Rahm? Hideki would have gotten more money if he'd gone to live than Jon Rahm, because of the Asian market, because of what Hideki would bring into them from the Asian market. Like, Hideki's ROI was way higher than Jon Rahm's because the Asian market is so crazy and golf crazy. And Hideki is looked at as, he's got a green jacket. So Hideki brings green jacket to the table and is revered in Asia because of winning the Masters.
Well, and it's because of Asia. Like,
it's Asia. Yeah, and it's a golf crazy it's a golf crazy area. Like, we all know that. But I mean,
Rahm brings a green jacket now, so I'm just saying.
Yeah,
he does.
He does. The final countdown.
But his Spanish following is not as big as an Asian following.
Right.
Correct.
That's there.
Correct.
And that's really where it comes from. But that's the thing, is we also have to remember, as Americans, we didn't create this sport. This is a global sport.
Yeah.
This is played all over the world. This is basketball, baseball, we created.
But I think the one thing that this partnership does is makes the game more global. Mm-hmm. And I think you will see more events outside of. You had the World Golf Championship. To me, the World Golf championship events are going to go away, and you are going to see co-branded events with the PIF and with the DP World Tour, and you're going to see bigger events worldwide versus all of these events in America.
Because I think if you can, because it used to be those, like, Tiger used to get paid to just go play in an event overseas.
I do think that, well, there's going to be this is going to be the $1,000 question now. If the tour had this thing where you couldn't get appearance fee money in America. Now, you played with where your sponsors were, because, again, why did Tiger play in all the Buick events? Because Buick was his sponsor. So they were paying him to be there. Yeah. But now do I think, and part of that was because they were a nonprofit. Do I think that now that that they've become a for-profit entity, and we're going to go and have this game now? That's where I think you're going to see these guys get money. Is we're going to pay you X amount of dollars every time you show up.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I think that's where the bigger thing happens with this is that they're going to get appearance fee money just for being there because of the PIF funds, and then you go from there. And that's where I think this happens. The problem that I have with this is, where does that money end? At some point, that money for the PIF. Well, I agree with that, but at some point, the PIF's going to want an ROI.
Well, they're going to get money from many different avenues that's going to come out of this.
Right.
That's where this is going to start getting that ROI, and big money right there.
Big money.
But that's
big hitter of the llama.
Big hit of the llama. that's going to get. I even forgot.
Land a ball in through. Land a ball in the sunroof. Get $1,000.
Yeah,
right.
That's going to be the thing. Is that what's the money? Like, you're going to get money for playing now. You're going to get, like, that's where I think Monahan was saying the loyal players are going to get paid from this, and it's going to be that, like, if you stayed, I think money is going to go their way. And like, hey, because you stayed on, you're going to get this signing bonus that's on there.
So here's my question. If we go down the appearance fee route, the players that went to live that took all this money, are they going to be eligible for the appearance fee money?
I think that's going to be one of the things of getting back in.
It depends what their qualifications are getting back in. If, Brooks had what, $125 million deal, and say maybe he's collected 65 of that right now. What portion of that does he have to pay back in order to get back on the tour?
Not going to pay anything back. Nothing's going to be paid back.
No. Yeah. I think the tour is going to find them to come back. I think there's going to be money that they're going to recoup for them to come back. I think you will see the tour. There will be fines levied. If you want to come back, you're going to have to pay a fine and serve some time away, and that's what's going to happen.
A fine and time served.
Yes. Yes.
But that and you're going to have to appease, and you're going to have to take a lot of the emotion out of this, because the players that are on the tour, the PGA Tour now, are going to be pissed about all of this. But you got to take this emotion out of, like, hey, this is a business decision, like we've said from the beginning in this, and we need to find a way to make this work and come back to a one group. But that's going to be the toughest thing of, how do you do that? Is it fines? Is it this? Is it now? If another tour comes up and tries to do the same thing Liv did, and why would, like, someone like Rory or
there are other ones out there. That's
what I'm saying.
From England. Yeah, there are other ones out there.
If another one gets a huge backer and gets all this money now, okay, I was loyal last time, but you know what? I saw what happened last time. I'm taking my money. So that's going to be another thing.
Here's the problem, though. You're going to have the money now. You have the PIF behind you.
Yeah, hopefully. This is not a merger. This is a hostile takeover. Let's be honest.
No, it's a complete hostile takeover.
This is. They're saying merger to make it sound better, but
they're saying alliance, corporate business alliance, corporate alliance, or whatever they're calling it.
This is the backer. This is the financial backer of the Live Tour saying, I didn't see my ROI, so I'm going over here and putting my money. I'm investing over here now.
Yeah, that's all this is.
And to be nice, they're bringing Liv over with them.
Correct.
But I think Liv thinks like that. These players, I think, are very misled right now, and that they think they're going to have a lot more like freedom and be like, yeah, we did this, and it's like, no, that's not the way things are going to be done.
Right. No, I would agree with you on that.
But I mean, this is. I don't think this.
No, because if they're an entity together now,
because
I don't
because the PIF is no longer, to me, they're no longer a live backer.
That's going to have to come out of the players' pockets.
Like, but yeah, this is all the stuff that we don't know right now, and that's the thing.
Yeah,
like everyone today, and even myself, all of us, we saw this and we're like, what's going on? Like, and there are no answers to any of the stuff we've talked about tonight. This is all speculation. This is all going to be
the biggest question that really needs to be answered at this point is, you look back a year ago this week where Jay Monahan said, have you ever had to apologize for being on the PGA Tour? He said it in Canada a year ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that question needs to be answered, and I want a truthful answer from Jay Monahan now at this point.
Circumstances have changed. That was his answer.
Yeah, that was his answer. Things change.
Yeah. Here's one. I don't think at this point they're attractive enough to be bought.
Yeah.
I don't think at this point that they're attractive enough to be bought, because they were attractive at the point where you had money from the PIF. The PIF money is no longer there.
Yeah.
And that question has to go away now, because where's that money going?
Yeah.
And and that gets into, that question here still. Yes.
I'm waiting for the vote of no confidence from the players. And that's where
we've all talked about this, and that's where I think this is going, but I think that's too quick of a gut reaction to this. I think I'd like to see what the plan is, and if he's
we're going to have to let this play out the next couple weeks.
Exactly. I think that
I don't know that it's even weeks. I think we have to give it to the Tour Championship before we really see this play out.
That is true, but the players are going to mutiny it quickly, though. This has to happen a lot quicker, though.
Like, this still has to get approved by, boards and everything else. And, both of them have said, this is going to be a couple weeks before, all the details are finalized and hashed out here.
So here's the question, and we can throw it out there, and I don't know that there's an answer. But what if the Player Advisory Council doesn't approve this deal?
I think you have Mike's good comment. I think you have to look at this and say, you're going to have to think about it. You're going to have to go in and say, do we want this money? And if we do,
well, not do we want this money? Does this money make us better?
No, it's the question of do we want this money is going to be the thing there, because like we talked about, there is that. I'm going back to the sports washing comment of everything. Like, do we want to be associated with this when we've been saying all along that that's what was happening on the live side, and now we're taking that same money? So that's going to be a big question that some of these players are going to have to ask, and that they have legit concerns. Like, that's the one players the PGA players are the ones that I'm concerned for. Of, you stayed loyal, you did this, and now you're going to get this backing, and where the I 100%. I agree with that.
And
but
I don't know that I don't even know. And I'm going to say this: I don't know that Rory even has a say. Tiger has the say. He's Tiger. He's the needle.
Rory has a say
because he's on the Player Advisory Council.
Yeah. But this is going to be,
and I think this is. These players understand money. They do.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they understand money because that's what they're all worried about.
But I think,
if you're going to get paid, this is how you get paid.
But I think it's going to come down to: is this money going to grow the game of golf? And I'm going to take the money, but only if it's going to be doing good and not just buying out.
Here's the question. Because I've been very critical, and I'll admit I've been critical of the live players that said we're trying to grow the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm not gonna hide behind that. And I've said all along, all it's done is grow your bank account. The money has grown your bank account. It hasn't grown the game of golf. Liv hasn't done anything to me to grow the game of golf. Agreed. The problem that I have is this money going to grow the game, or is it just going to grow these players' bank accounts so they make more money? And then the other question, and again, this goes back to the idea, and I'll throw it out there. Let's look at Topgolf. Topgolf is growing the game. I don't think Topgolf is trying to grow the game. I think Topgolf is trying to grow their bank accounts, and that's all it comes down to. Is that where we are in this?
That's where I disagree in the Topgolf thing, is because I think Topgolf introduces the game to people who would never play golf. It's not the game as we see it, but it introduces you to the golf swing. It introduces you to that thing. And if you like it, you might do more. That's a different topic. But it's a good thing to compare to this, because that's, to my point, is it's a business decision, of course.
Yeah.
But that's to my point of, you're doing this as a business decision, but what are you going to do with it? What's the next steps? And that's all the questions we're trying to answer here. And
that I don't think any of us at this point know the answer to.
Eric, golf makes golf fun.
Yeah.
But Topgolf is fun. And Eric and I used to play in a Topgolf league together. So we used to play in a league together at Topgolf. So that was a lot of fun too. So
a bucket of mimosas at 10 o'clock in the morning makes Topgolf fun.
Mimosas at anything makes anything fun.
I just think that at this point, I just don't see, at the end of the day, are we growing? Again, the question is, are we growing the game? Or are we growing our wallets? And I think the players themselves all care about growing their wallets, because that's all they care about. Like, they can sit there and talk about, oh, we want to grow the game. We want to make the game better. We want to do this. We want to do that. Are you really doing that? Like, what grew the game from Liv, and outside of their bank accounts?
Nothing. That wasn't. They said they wanted to grow the game. They wanted to change the professional game, and they never said that.
Correct.
But that's what it
Right.
was. That's what all this is about. But I think the PGA Tour, if they truly want to change this for the better and make it look better on themselves, they need to use this money not just to pay the players. That does need to happen, because that's part of this. But you need to also use that money to grow and expand the game globally, like you're also saying. Because if they don't do that, then all this was just about making money.
Yeah.
How do you make a game that it is right now? Why is football and soccer so successful? I'm just going to ask this question. Why do you have kids that are lining up to play football and soccer? Because you can play it with a ball. You can figure out how to play a game, and all you need is a ball. Golf itself, how do you make this game more accessible for people to play when it's not a cheap sport to play? I mean, Greg, let's talk about, how many clubs do you own? And I've gotten rid of a lot of mine, and I've paid a smaller penny than the ones that you've paid for. Like how do you make this game more accessible? Golf is expensive. So, and why does baseball struggle inner city? Because you need a glove, you need a bat, you need a ball, there's a lot of other things that you need to go to play baseball. So a lot more than playing football, a lot more than playing soccer. So how do you make this game more accessible for people? Hey, Greg, pull that back up, please.
No, I keep putting it down for a reason. My wife sees this shit.
Hey, Eric, they should really change the name from the PGA Tour Superstore to the Greg Superstore. We'll just call it that. But no. How do you make this game more accessible for? I'm not gonna lie, I love golf. Don't get me wrong, but how do
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying is you need to put that investment into like these inner cities and make golf more affordable, where you can donate clubs and do things like what a lot of professional athletes, I was going to say, like just football players, but they go into schools, they bring equipment, they bring all of this stuff for places that don't have the money to afford it, and make it more accessible for them. And that's what I want to see out of this deal.
But
like,
okay, so
the players make money.
You give a kid a set of clubs, he's still got to go somewhere to play. This has to be an equal partnership across all the we all can't go out and play the goat. We all can't go out and play the goat ranch, but sometimes the goat ranch is going to charge you $75.
But I think you need to invest into golf and get things in there and invest into courses and things like that.
Hold on one second. Hey Scott, he's on YouTube. That's why you can't see it in your Facebook chat.
Yeah. We'll pull it up here, so that's where it is.
Yeah. I'm not going to argue this point. The problem is
that's a great point.
Let's look at the cost of golf equipment. And I'm going to say this as someone who has a shaft in his driver and his 3-wood that are $1,000 retail per shaft.
Drink, Bradley.
As when you look at walking into Dick's Sporting Goods or PGA Tour Superstore and what they're charging for the Stealth 2 with an upgraded shaft, or they're charging for the new Callaway, the Paradigm with an upgraded shaft, and you're going to spend $1,000. How do you at the end of the day, you can talk about making equipment more affordable, but at the end of the day, and I get a putter costs what, $25 to $30 to make. And when was the last putter you saw for $50? So these guys made $20 on a putter. I mean, a putter is $125 and up now, and $125 is a cheap top flight putter.
Well, golf is a $1 billion industry that, like, everyone that plays, and that's the thing about it. We watch these players play on tour, and we had this during the golf ball restriction discussion, but you see them play it on tour, you can go buy it and play it yourself. But that's where you need to, like, the PGA is golf. Like, that's what it is. And you need to make this more accessible for people and grow this game and get more people into it. And I think that comes into putting money into courses as well. Like, this shouldn't just be about making more money for these players, unless you are just becoming an entity like the NBA and the NFL that are for profit and are entertainment and are an entertainment industry. That's what they are registered as, an entertainment industry.
Correct.
Like, and the PGA Tour is not that. This is a competitive, like, that anyone, if you have the ability, you can go play on it. You don't have to get drafted. You just have to, if you play better, you will get into it. Just like the US Open, where a former US Open champion just missed out on the longest day of golf yesterday because he didn't qualify, which was sad to see. But you qualify, you can play.
And I'm going to say this, he's a really good dude too.
He is a really good dude. So that's like,
he's a really good dude. But
anyone at Bethpage, so.
He did.
Yeah.
And he won't be there this year at LACC.
Which is sad.
Right.
But that's the thing about this game that's so great. Like, I don't want you to make this into a entertainment industry. I want to watch golfers play the same courses that I play. I want to watch that. I want to watch it at times. I want to watch those different events and things like that. But if you're going to grow the game, start at the grassroots level and actually grow the game of golf.
Yeah,
correct. How does, I mean, it's going to be, the problem is there's no ROI for club companies to do that. There isn't.
There is down the road.
There isn't, because what sells? What sells for club companies? Club companies still think, and they're old school, and they still think that every one of us buys a club because their favorite player plays it. Because and where did that come from? The Nike mentality when Tiger played for Nike. Because, again, let's be real. Did anybody want to carry the freaking?
No, it came from Michael. It came from Michael Jordan when everyone wanted his shoes and thought you would play like Michael Jordan. So
right.
That's where this came from. Let's be honest.
But like from a golf perspective, if you're going to go down this road,
I'm not saying give everyone clubs. I'm saying when you're a young kid and if you can't afford clubs, get clubs. But also, to be honest, like put that investment in it and you'll get a return on that investment.
Okay,
Because I'm still gonna buy clubs.
Dave, I'm gonna ask you this question right now. You're wearing a sub 70 hat. They're a direct consumer brand. They're what's in my bag, they're what's in your bag.
Yes.
Have you ever carried a better set of clubs in your bag?
Well, considering what I was playing in my bag before I got these clubs, the answer would be no.
Right. So the problem is that the rich get richer when it comes to this business because they charge astronomical amounts. Like we're going down a whole new rabbit hole, and I don't necessarily know that I want to go down. We don't need to go down now. No, we don't need to go down
this is a different rabbit. This is a whole different rabbit hole than what we started with.
But at the end of the day, and I don't know if Daniel's still on here. He was on here earlier. We're not. The average person doesn't go out and buy $15,000 launch monitors.
No.
They don't have the ability to get custom fit on the $15,000 launch monitor where they can figure out what best shaft combination and club head combination and loft and everything else they can do. So the average player doesn't have the access that the PGA Tour players have. They don't.
No, but I could go play Harbor Town.
Correct. And at the end of the day, do I miss the 18th fairway? But at the end of the day,
but I was inside the ropes.
But at the end of the day,
Bradley, you never should have sent this to them.
How do you, at this point, how do we grow the game, and how does the PGA Tour try and grow the game outside of putting more money in the first tee, outside of putting more money into PGA Junior League and getting the PGA of America to put more money in Junior League? And I'm going to say this, Mike is on here. World Amateur Golf Championship is backed by the PGA Tour. They're the PGA Tour's amateur golf tour. So how do you get these people from PGA Junior? Like, how do you get this? Here's the problem. And this is for a whole nother show. You almost have to be homeschooled now to be able to get a college scholarship and play because you have so many events that are run through AJGA and all this other stuff. Like high school golf isn't going to do it anymore. It doesn't cut it. It just doesn't. You're not going to get a college scholarship because you played in high school and you could shoot. And back when I played in high school, we played 9-hole events. How do you get?
Yeah, hold on, I got it. They're booked by elite rich white people. Let's be honest. Come on,
right? And at the end of the day,
bros that have
like at the end of the day, why are there 11? Why are there 11 golf courses closing in Florida for every one that opens?
Yeah,
like
and I know.
But that's the question. But that's the question is you have 11 golf courses in the state of Florida, which is a golf hotbed. And we had, we talked about this last night with Dormy. You run one of the most successful companies in the planet from a head cover design in Nova Scotia, Canada, which is not a golf hotbed. But in Florida, which is a golf hotbed, you're closing 11 courses to everyone that opens.
And there's
a lot to be said for that.
We've gone off our topic here with just growing the game now, but let's wrap this up with the whole thing is with this whole thing today, there are so many more questions than there are answers. And
I think the question that I have at the end of this, and I'm going to ask this question and we can wrap with this. Does this mean we can get the Brooks and Bryson feud back?
God damn it. I hope so. That's all I want. Please.
I feel like we need to end with that, but like, does this mean worst question of all time? Come on,
best
Scott.
question of all time. But this is it's true, but there's so many more questions. There's so many more things. This has the potential to be great for golf, but it it still is on the cusp of like, why did this happen in the first place? And
How have we gotten here? Like, there's so many questions.
We're here. We got to get to here, and there's a lot of steps in between.
Right. And can we do that? And let's be real. I mean, we have until Labor Day for the Tour Championship. Can all of these questions be answered between now and Labor Day?
Probably not.
No, but they need to start moving quickly, because the players on the PGA Tour are who they're going to have to answer to first.
Yes.
And that's going to be
because the live players are going to have to make concessions.
Yeah, and that's going to be the live players that are all excited about this. Is where do we go from here? And that's it. So, but with that being said, thank you all for watching tonight.
Thank you all for watching. Yes.
Like and subscribe. Watch us Monday nights for our regular show. And money is how we got here. Not how we got here. Money's not. We do this for the love of the game, and that's what I want to see more of out of this, is growing the love of this game. That is the greatest game that was ever invented, and
it's the greatest game there is. It's the greatest. I mean,
greatest game there was.
Yeah, let's go.
Greatest game there ever will be.
Like,
that's the thing.
Thanks, Hart.
So
thanks, Hardy.
Thanks,
Hardy. Great.
Yeah.
So let's just let's end with that, and this will be on our show. This will come up. We've been talking about Live versus PGA. Now it's going to be about the merger. That is just, it's going to be new. We're on it. We're on a new horizon, and I'd like to see where this goes. So,
all right, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Cheers, y'all.